What's up? Is Mike Barkhoff here with Live Free. I'm sorry about that intro. I was making sure that the microphone was picking up what I'm saying. A little short on guests. Not the fact. No, it's not the fact that I can't get them. It's the fact that everyone's super busy right now, and a lot of people are staying inside, which is awesome. But we have been without a podcast for about 2 months. I know how you feel, the people that listen to the podcast, all two of you. You feel like you're stuck in the desert and you feel like you're out of water. Here's some more water for you. It's just me today, just Mike Barkhoff. I think I stated that already. I'm going over something that was supposed to come out. Jeez, there goes my Canadian accent. Something that was supposed to come out on April something last month. It is the new James Bond film. So I figured since that didn't come out, I'd make the Live Free podcast without a guest. That's right, just myself once again, as I've stated many times already, and make it James Bond central. So centered, not central. James Bond central. That sounds like a UK street. Not a cute pastry, a UK street, a street in the United Kingdom. I'm going to take my phone off the table before that happens again. It probably won't. I don't have too many people texting me, but it might. So all right, I figured out like how to do this. I've been thinking about how to do this for a while. I decided that I should go over my top 5 favorite James Bond films. Goddamn fucking phone. And my top 5 favorite action sequences in the James Bond franchise, and I don't know, maybe we'll find some more stuff out along the way. I'm going to start with action sequences, something that I can remember pretty easily. I really don't think that the car chase that opens up Quantum of Solace, I don't think that that gets enough attention. I think that that's amazing, that's great, it's crazy, it is insane. And a lot of people shit on that film, which I get to a degree. It is an odd film for a James Bond film. I do admire the fact that the filmmaker tried to make it very mobile in terms of the camera. Mobile, if you didn't hear what I just said. Mobile. I do think that that was a nice touch. It kind of reminded me that James Bond films aren't in, you know, they're not meant to just be following the same formula. They're not as formulaic, however the fuck you say that word. They're not as much of that as a lot of people think. So Quantum of Solace is a great example of that. Quantum of Solace is also a great example of how a film should start off, how a film should end. The action sequences in that film are insane. It is too short. The plot is not thick enough for a James Bond film, I wouldn't say. So I do have my criticisms towards that film, but it really does start off with an amazing car chase, and that is one of my favorite James Bond action sequences. It's actually probably like in my top 5, which is what I'm doing right now. That's why I just mentioned it. Another one that I really like is the opening of Spectre. I really like the opening of Spectre because it's all with it's not one camera, but it's made to look like it's one camera angle. It's crazy and it's cool. And if you have not seen it, I definitely recommend that you look it up and watch it. Even if you don't like James Bond, even if you don't like Spectre, even if you know, you heard that Spectre sucks or you don't like Daniel Craig, I definitely recommend at least watching that part. It is insane. It's crazy. It's definitely one of the best narratives in recent filmmaking that I can think of myself. Let me make sure that the gain is all right for this. I think it is. I guess we'll find out when it's too late, because right now I'm kind of in a hurry. Why am I in a hurry? Well, you see, I'm trying to film some shit. I'm trying to do this at the same time. Anyway, back to what I was saying. That is an awesome action sequence, definitely up there in my top 5. You guys are gonna call me a little Daniel Craig fanboy, but once again, the opening of Casino Royale is one of my favorites. I'm not talking the cold open, like before the cold open, like I was with Quantum and Spectre. I'm talking immediately after the cold open. That film has such an intense opening. Like the whole first, like probably 20 minutes. Like the cold open's amazing, the intro's amazing, and then after the intro, which is what I'm discussing right now, that is insane. The parkour chase, right at the height of like the early day parkour hype, you know, publicity. I said hype like 3 times in that sentence. I was looking for a synonym for publicity and it didn't really work. That is insane. I keep saying insane. It's crazy. I keep saying crazy. It is though. that is awesome. It really is. They did such a great job with that, especially when they're on the construction equipment and all that stuff. They really did a really good job with that film, all around. That's probably my favorite James Bond film, which I'm going to discuss later. I had to stop to Google, but it's also worth noting that there's so many crazy and cool James Bond sequences that it's hard to make a top 5 list, especially because, like I said, a lot of people are going to come at me saying, "Oh, you've never seen the early ones." I have seen the early ones. I love the early ones. I really do. But the thing is, technology has advanced so much that it's hard to make a top 5 action scenes in the whole 24 James Bond franchise series, which has been going from 1962, I believe, up until this point. Technology has advanced so much, so it really is. It's really hard to make a top 5 action sequence without someone saying, "Oh, you love Daniel Craig." I do. I really do enjoy the Daniel Craig inversion of Bond. I know that that's probably some controversial type of statement, which is a little fucked up, because I can have my opinion, you can have yours. But I really do think that in terms of action, Daniel Craig's Bond has taken the franchise forward so much. But I did not want to make these top 2 entries so devoted to him. So another action sequence that I really like in the James Bond franchise, and there's so many. There's so many. You got the amazing train sequences from Russia with Love. You got the amazing tank sequence in GoldenEye. You got, I even like the invisible car bit. I don't like the plot, but I like the bit in Die Another Day. Like, that's crazy, The Living Daylights, I can't recall if it's that one or License to Kill, the one with the semi, but because those both had Timothy Dalton. Oh yeah, I think it's his name, Timothy Dalton. I get him and Timothy Oliphant mixed up a lot, but that was crazy. That semi chase, crazy. I mean, even the films of James Bonds that even the films in the James Bond franchise that got a lot of hate, they really usually do typically have insane, crazy, awesome action montages and scenes. So it is hard to put this list together. But going forward with my second to last favorite, so second favorite, I don't know why I said it like that. I guess it's just my second favorite. My second favorite action sequence, I'm sorry, I'm pretty tired right now, is, man, I just Googled it, and, like, there's so many great ones. I don't know, maybe it's best we just cut this segment off right here, and we just scrap this, and say that, there's my phone again, and say that these aren't really my top 5, they're just notable ones in my eyes. So we're going to do that now, right now, about 8 minutes in, almost in a second. 8 minutes in now. We are going to say that that was bullshit. Everything before this point was bullshit, and that I really love James Bond. I really love the action sequences, and I really do think that they all share really great, unique action sequences. So I just pointed out like 5, maybe 6 or 7. I'm not sure on the number, but I just pointed out like a large amount of really good ones that I have a lot of respect for. One that I think is very notable that a lot of people don't really mention too much from what I've seen on the internet and stuff. There's this really good James Bond film that was trying to be very experimental, and a lot of people don't consider it an actual James Bond film because it's not, but it still has James Bond in it. But one of the scenes in that is there's this car chase. It's right when Bond's trying to catch the man that killed his father, and they basically get into it, and they end up getting in a car chase. And it is insane. It's definitely one of the best pieces of filmmaking that I've seen in a long time. I'm serious about this. I really do recommend checking it out. It's in, I believe, part 5, I think, of this James Bond film, because it was released in 7 parts. It's free on YouTube. It's called Bond v. Batman, Age of Vengeance. I left some moments of silence because if anyone's listening and doesn't know this, I actually made Bond v. Batman, Age of Vengeance. So if you didn't know that, that explains the silence. But if you did know that, that also explains the silence, because it was my way of making room for a hi-hat, a ding to the joke. Yeah, that, but like, I mean, James Bond has inspired me so much to the point where I've made multiple things featuring him. You know, I've done the Bond v Batmans, the Bond P Batmans, several other short films including Bond. I really wish that we would have been able to complete Bond v Batman. The entire goal of that web series was to install a new one like every few years, but that was just unrealistic because we had to film the end of it like right away because of the fact that the man that played Batman, who's awesome, Grant Weldon, shout out to him. I haven't spoken to him in a while, but me and him were like real close on the set. That was fun as shit. You know, he was graduating and I was only a sophomore, so it was one of those things where it's like we gotta film this now, and then it ended up becoming a thing where it's like 2 years go by and there's this and it's not very good, but that's what you get right now. We have this whole other stuff filmed with Grant, but that's gonna be towards the end of this, and when we get time we'll film the remainder of this or we'll add this in there, and we never really got the time. And then it got to the point where Zach Delves and I were sitting talking, and he said, I'd really like to make something that focuses on James Bond. Well, I take that back about 30 seconds. We made other stuff, but it wasn't worthy enough of being in Bond v Batman because it didn't follow the plot line that we had in place. So with that said, we made Sandstorm, which was an underwater James Bond film. It sucked. It was really, really, really bad. We really just wanted to experiment with an underwater camera. I don't know why we put it out. It was horrible. It was awful. God awful, I would say. And then we made Bond v Batman Part 3, which was already breaking away from the plot. It was just meant to be like a filler, fun episode. And once again, I don't know why I did that because it sucked. And then I made one last year called Switchblade, which was meant to be like promotional marketing for the James Bond series that I was just about to mention before I cut myself off right around the time where I said, wait, go back about 30 seconds. And that one was based on the plot of the web series that me and Zach were bound to do. Zach and I, sorry, Mrs. Keeker. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to gather some words real quick. We haven't had time to do it yet. We really want to do it, and I think what's really cool about what Zach and I, sorry, Mrs. I can't think of another language arts teacher's name, Mrs. Goldie, sorry. Zach and I, what we really want to do is we really want to capture the very fun, eccentric, and at times over-the-top side of James Bond, and we want to mix him in with the dark and gritty portions of James Bond. I also really, really, really like, I keep saying really 3 times, I don't know why, you can say really once and it means the same as really, 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 but I really, 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 I'm going to do it anyways, I really, really, really like the Daniel Craig series of Bond films because of the fact that it shows where he lives. I found that to be such a cool little piece of info within those films, and I don't know, I really kind of want to, I really kind of want to go there with our film and show you guys like who James Bond is as a person. So Zach and I have this really cool idea, which I'm not going to say here, and we're probably not going to announce until we're done filming it and it's out by surprise, but we do have this idea of something that we really, 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 really want to do, and I really, really, really hope that we can get to you very soon. But right now, with the way things are going, we're trying to focus our attention to films and things that are a priority right now, which includes things that are happening right now. Because I'm not going to lie, we have had a very hectic and crazy, chaotic year. We have not really been on top like we were in the past. And when I say that, what I mean is every episode of Chapters is done like weeks in advance, which is cool and all. But like back in 2018, when something popped up, I wouldn't even look the same. I could weigh like 50 pounds more. Well, not, yeah, at times 50. Yeah, I gained weight for some roles. But you know what I mean. Like it was just one of those things where now we're really not like how we were before, which I don't mind because the way we're doing things right now, I really have a different kind of respect. Really, really, really kind of have a different kind of respect for it because it reminds me of how musicians work. You know, they'll tweet every once in a while, they'll talk to you every once in a while, but ultimately it's one of those things where it's just like, I'll see you when I put out an album, and I'll put an album, and it might be 2 years before I put out another album, but I really had a good time connecting with you. You know what I mean? And for the longest time in what we were doing, I felt like that's not what we were doing, if that makes sense. I felt like we were more or less stuffing stuff in your face. Like, here you go, have this, and here you go, have a side of this, and here you go, have another side of this. There's a reason that the release of Infinite and the release of Windfall were practically the same. It's because of the fact that it really is because of the fact that I had a lot of fun after Infinite released. It allowed me to, kick back, let loose for a little bit, and we ended up coming out with more comedic material around then. In this case, it was kind of flip-flopped. It wasn't, like that's the only prime example I can think of where times aren't matched how they used to be matched. And what I mean when I say that is, around the time that we put out Infinite, everything was coming out. We had it planned for months, typically at a time. And here we have it planned out sometimes up to days before it releases, up to hours at times, and sometimes minutes, I'm not going to lie. And, that was the one case where it was flip-flop, because after Infinite came out, someone was like, hey, we should do some funny stuff. Okay, yeah, let's film some funny stuff. The next day, okay, yeah, let's release that funny stuff. Here, it was like I had the funny stuff scheduled, and I actually had to move around the schedule to release Windfall, but I found it very, I'm trying to think of a good word. It reminded me a lot of the release of Infinite because of the fact that, it was such a serious rise, and then it kind of had that comedic push downhill, which I like. I do appreciate that. I don't even know how I got on this tangent. I think I was talking about the Bond v Batman web. Yeah, the Bond v Batman web series. Right now, not Bond v Batman, just the Bond. God damn it. See, I'm really tired, and I'm trying to film something after this, so I'm trying to hurry, and I'm stumbling over a lot of my words, and I didn't really think before I hit record, so I'm sorry, but we are almost at the 16-minute, 40-second mark. There we are. That's the 16-minute, 40-second mark. I'm trying to keep this podcast episode about 30 minutes, so you only got about 14 minutes, 20 seconds, 14 minutes, 10 seconds, here we go, 14 minutes, 10 seconds left from me, so I am really sorry. But if you love me enough, you'll keep listening, and if you hate me enough, you'll keep listening because you really want to hear me right now in my weak moment, so you can make fun of me when you see me in public next. Anyway, what I'm saying is Zach and I are trying to make a Bond web series, and it's extremely hard because we do not have nearly as much shit planned out as we did when we had Barking Vans running, because we are A, failures in life, B, failures as business heads, C, we suck horribly, horrendously, and I really hope you guys know this and knew this before I told you, and what was I at, C? D, we just don't have the time for it right now. And I really hate saying D and C and B and A, but C, B, and A I'll take up with my therapist, while D I'll just stick to right here while I'm talking to you. D is something that we're really trying to fix right now, but until we get D fixed, A, B, and C are all true. And they probably will be all true, but D will hopefully get fixed someday, and when D gets fixed, we will end up making a Bond web series, and I promise you that. I promise you that. We have some really great ideas for a Bond web series, and I really, that's right, I said it 3 times, again, I really hope that we can make this web series and that it can go down in history as not just a web series of ours or a web series of yours or another Live Free web series or, hey, there's that idiot Mike again thinking he can play James Bond. No, I'm hoping that this ends up being something that a lot of Bond fans really enjoy, and I'm hoping maybe even to push the limit a little bit and have people say, that's better than most of the fucking movies, and that's coming from me, Mike Barkhoff. I introduced myself at the beginning, but if you forgot who I am, I'm Mike Barkhoff. That's coming from me, who is an avid fan of the James Bond films, and Jackie Chan films, and Milos Forman's films, and Martin Scorsese films, and Eminem, and Mac Miller, and Workaholics, all this shit. But at first in this web series, a James Bond fan. That's coming from me. I really want to impress everyone. I really want to push the limits of what's been done so far, and I really want to do a good job with it. So it might take us a while to get to that web series. I guess that's the whole point I was trying to make in this last 10-minute tangent, but I really am trying to push us to get that on the roll. And if it gets on the roll, awesome. I'll see you guys when I see you guys, and when you guys see me, you'll see me. But until then, it might take a long time, but we are working hard on it. And when I say working hard, that typically means I'm not working too hard on it, but I want you guys to think that I'm working extremely hard on it so that you stop questioning me about it. But in this case, we're working hard on it. I'm not working on it too hard. Like I said, I got to film after this, and I mean, like I was also saying in that whole tangent, there's a lot of stuff that we got to prioritize. And right now, the filming of movies 3 and 4 for me are priorities, which I'm very excited to get to you guys. But that's enough with the tangent because we are 20 minutes in. We have 10 minutes left now. So my top 5 James Bond films. I really, 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 really have a special place in my heart, and you can make fun of me for this, A View to a Kill. I think it's a great film. Okay, I take that back. I think it's a Bond film that has a lot of laughs. Fucking phone. Oh my god, this time of night at 5:04 p.m. I think it's a Bond film with a lot of laughs. It's very cheesy. It captures a lot of the natural Bondiness surrounding the whole Bondy. It's something special, but seriously, I think a lot of people hate on it way too much. I have a special place in my heart for it because it was like, it was on TV one night. I was like maybe like 8, and my parents didn't really let me stay up too late on school nights, but this time they did because it was a James Bond film, and I was like, hey, there's this James Bond film on at like 9. Can I watch it? So I stayed up super late to watch it, and that was like the first time that I ever went to school lacking a lot of sleep. So it's got a special place in my heart. Number 4, call me insane, call me absurd. I really, really, really do enjoy Spectre. It definitely has its flaws, but I definitely think for a James Bond film, it hits a lot of notes to the T. It's got a good mix of comedy, a good mix of action, and a very good plot. And I do understand that a lot of the plot elements are somewhat half-assed, or maybe they needed to be corrected before production. But I don't know. To me, that's like, it makes the film better because it's not so cliche. And when I say that, I mean I see a lot of films where you can guess what's happening from a mile away. With Spectre, there's times where you can guess what's happening from a mile away, and you might get like 200 kilometers away from that mile away, and you might be like, oh yeah, I was right when I said I knew what's happening from a mile away. And then right at that like 25-kilometer point, they'll rip that from you, and they'll be like, you have no fucking clue what's happening. And I really like that. I don't know. I really do. So Spectre, I love Spectre. You can criticize for me. You can criticize me for that. You can call me an idiot. You can call me all that stuff. I also think that Skyfall's good. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know. I feel like Skyfall was too perfect in comparison to Spectre. Like it was one of those films where it was like, this feels like a big budget like summer blockbuster, and to me that's never been what James Bond really is. It's more about tradition, so that's why I prefer Spectre just a little bit to Skyfall. But they are both great films, and seriously, to anyone that says Spectre sucks, I really, really, really want you just to watch it again. Go in with an open mind, and don't expect to come out of it thinking that it's GoldenEye or Goldfinger or whatever your favorite James Bond film is, because it's not. And you knew it wasn't going to be, so for you to hold that standard to it, that's just ridiculous. My third favorite, my third favorite James Bond film, I gotta Google this quick, because it's maybe I won't. I'm pretty sure that it's License to Kill with Timothy Dalton, but like Oliphant and Dalton mixed together. I said that I got them confused earlier on, so that's what that was about. But I don't know. It might be The Living Daylights, but I'm pretty sure it's License to Kill. The one where he's going after like the drug dealers and shit, and then his friend gets killed by the shark. I'm pretty sure that's License to Kill. I really like that one. And I also know License to Kill comes before The Living Daylights, and the first one was better than the second one, so I'm like 99% sure it's License to Kill. But I watched them both on the same day, and they both had the same actor, so it's a little hard to memorize. But License to Kill, I'm pretty sure, is my third favorite James Bond film. I think Timothy Dalton did a really good job as James Bond, and I really do think that he would have definitely blown a lot of, he would have blown a lot of people out of the water if they would have made a third one, I believe, because I do think that those first two were just him working up towards what he could fully do in the position of being James Bond. He did really, really good, and honestly, he is the one person that I wish would have been James Bond for longer. Yes, above Sean Connery. And I like Roger Moore, but I do think that he had his cheesy elements, but I do think that's what's special about the actors. They bring their own sauce to the same recipe. For lack of a better term. My second favorite James Bond film, I really like GoldenEye. I really do. But I also really like From Russia with Love. I'd say this one's probably a tie, honestly. I like GoldenEye a bit more because, like I was saying earlier, it's newer, so the technology's been advanced. I don't know. I feel like if you took the action from GoldenEye and put it into From Russia with Love, you'd have one of the best movies of all time. Those are both great films, but GoldenEye does lack on plot, and From Russia with Love does lack on like the crazy, outstanding action sequences. So that's kind of how I feel about that. But like I said, I know a lot of people are probably gonna say you're fucking stupid to compare those two films. Once again, keep your opinions to yourself, brah. This is my opinion. This is my space. You're listening to the comfort zone. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know. I really do think that those two films are both great. I do think if I'd had to choose one over the other, GoldenEye, which is partially nostalgic, and I realize that I shouldn't base things off of nostalgia. Like, in 20 years, if I go back and I'm saying my top 5 James Bond films, I probably won't say A View to a Kill ever again, even though I actually do think it's not a bad movie. Not nearly as bad as people say. So that this will probably be another one of those examples where it's, I would say GoldenEye when I was 20, but when I'm 40, I might say From Russia with Love because of the fact that I'm trying to cling on to some sort of the past. You know what I mean? Some shit like that, some weird shit. But right now in my life, I do think GoldenEye is my second favorite James Bond film, and that's the thing. All right. These are bound to change over time. I'm bound to rewatch them eventually and say, oh, this one's much better than this one. So if you even think about commenting or saying that I suck, which I already know I suck, and I already know that my opinions aren't always the best, get out of here, dog. You know what I mean? You feel me? I don't know. Get out of here. Arf to the wind with you, biatch. My number one James Bond film, I can already feel the fucking hate. Casino Royale. I love it. I especially love it because they went back and they showed James Bond's first case, because that's obviously based off of the original novel. The action sequences, which I went over a little bit earlier, insane, crazy. Daniel Craig does such a great job. Like I said earlier, the first 20 minutes of the film are solid, and to me, the whole film is solid. There's a few points where it's okay, we could fast forward a little bit here or whatever, but I've never seen a 2.5 hour movie keep my attention, in suspense, and at the same time have such a great plot and not just be wagging explosive devices in front of your face. I've never had a film since The Dark Knight. Well, I realize that this came out before The Dark Knight, but I do think this is on the same level as The Dark Knight. If you're a bit more patient and you sit down and watch it, I do think that this is a crazy, amazing film, and it is something that you need to see once in your life. And even if you don't like it, there's still sequences that are extremely memorable. Like the car chase, the opening, the interrogation scene between I think his name's Lee Chiffre or Lee Chef and Bond. Seriously, it's super, super memorable. It's such a great Bond film. I love it, and I would die for it. I wouldn't, because I went through this phase where I had the DVD of that twice. Don't ask me why. And I used to put the DVD under my shirt, kind of as a bulletproof vest, so I wouldn't die for it. I'd let the film take the bullet. But it is a great film, nonetheless. And that's all for the podcast about, I'm going to say Bondcast. I don't know why I didn't think of that until now. The Live Free Bondcast. It's episode 6 of the Live Free podcast, called A Very Special Bondcast. I hope you guys get that reference. It's because it's a podcast about the James Bond films. I'm sure maybe someone out there did. But if they didn't, that's what it means. And I did pretty good with my time limit because I said about 30 minutes. And right now it is 29 seconds. And I just had to announce the time for the 5th time this podcast. So I think now's the perfect time to end it before I get any more stupid with the interview or the podcast or whatever the fuck you want to call it.